Hey guys, tonight we're taking a slow walk through time straight into the mud-caked, flea-bitten world of medieval hygiene. You're stepping into a village square at dawn. The sky is dull gray. A rooster crows somewhere in the distance. A low mist clings to the thatched rooftops. You take one step forward and immediately regret it. Your foot sinks into something that's definitely not just mud. It squelches around your shoe. The air smells like a mix of rotting turnips, human waste, and barnyard sweat. Welcome to medieval cleanliness. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk deeper into the village. The sun hasn't quite risen yet, but the smells are already awake. Flies buzz lazily in clusters near wooden doorways. A pig trots past you, its snout covered in something you hope is just old stew. Chickens cluck and peck at the ground undisturbed by anything. You pass a wooden bucket tipped on its side. The liquid inside is dark and sticky. Nobody seems eager to clean it. This isn't a market day. There's no celebration. This is just normal. This is what the center of a medieval village smells like every morning, every season. The combination of sweat, smoke, dung, and damp wood never leaves. You approach the well. It's in the center of the square, but nobody's drawing water from it right now. A small child spits into the stone edge. A dog laps at a puddle nearby. The bucket tied to the rope is crusted with algae and soot. There's water down there, but you're not sure if you'd want to touch it. Behind you, a thatched house opens its door. A woman steps out and empties a small clay pot right into the street. It splashes beside you. You catch the sour sting of urine, maybe worse. That was the family chamber pot. She doesn't even glance at you. She turns and shuts the door again. Her linen dress is stained at the hem. Her hands are red from scrubbing turnips, not from washing. People shuffle out slowly. You notice most are wearing the same clothes they slept in. Their hair is matted. Faces are splotched with dirt. A few rub their hands together in the cold, smearing soot from the hearth onto their sleeves. You move toward the small blacksmith's hut. He's already awake, hammering a bent horseshoe into shape. The metal clangs in a slow rhythm. His arms are strong, streaked with sweat and soot, even though the day's barely started. He doesn't wash his hands. He doesn't wipe his brow. He works, breathes, sweats, and works again. The anvil's cleaner than his face. A chicken squawks as someone grabs it by the legs. The butcher waves to the man holding it. They haggle without shaking hands. Instead, they spit into the dirt to seal the trade. A coin exchanges hands, but both are crusted with grime. The chicken flaps once, then goes quiet. It's headed for the chopping block. A small crowd gathers around the village bakehouse. Bread is one of the few safe foods baked hot enough to kill whatever was crawling in the flour. The baker pulls out rough loaves with a wooden paddle. He wears no gloves. His nails are black. No one cares. They're grateful to eat. The path to the church cuts behind a stable. You try to hold your breath. The horses are tethered and steaming in the morning chill. Steam rises off their flanks. The ground beneath them is thick with dung hay and a few lost tools. Someone must clean this, but not today. There's a puddle of runoff near the stable. It smells like ammonia and rot. A little boy uses a stick to push something in the water. It looks like a rat, or part of one. You walk faster. Near the edge of the village is a tannery. You regret going this far. The smell hits hard. Animal hides soak in large wooden tubs. They use urine to soften the skins, sometimes lime, sometimes manure. The workers' hands are stained yellow. Their aprons are stiff with dried filth. Their faces are blank. They stopped smelling it years ago. The villagers pass them without pause. They nod in greeting. No one mentions the stench. This is just how things are. You try not to gag. You pass a group of women gathering near the stream. They hold bundles of clothes under their arms. They kneel and begin to scrub, not with soap, but with sand and cold water. The stream flows too slowly to carry everything away. You see flecks of blood, grease, and food scraps drifting past. A fish breaks the surface once, then disappears. Laundry day happens when it must, not often. The women chatter as they scrub. One picks lice from another's hair while laughing. You hear no shame in it. Shame, just routine. You sit on a tree stump. It's damp. Probably not clean. Nothing is. A farmer walks past wiping his hands on his tunic. He smells like ox sweat and cabbage. He smiles. His teeth are mostly gone. A dog barks in the distance. Someone coughs. Loud, wet, and deep. Nobody reacts. Illness blends in here. You spot a row of shoes drying by a fence. Mud crusts the soles. The leather is cracked. They'll be worn again tomorrow. There's no drain, no mop, no bleach, no sanitizer. Cleanliness is whatever lets you survive until the next harvest. Even the church, made of stone and decorated with carved saints, smells of mildew and incense. You step inside. It's dim. The air is cold and heavy. A priest lights a candle. His robe is cleaner than most, but his hands are not. He dips his fingers in holy water. You hesitate to follow. Historians still argue whether medieval people truly believed dirt was holy or just unavoidable. Some say they feared that bathing opened the skin to disease. Others think it was just too hard to find clean water. Either way, no one scrubs for pleasure. You leave the church and walk back toward the square. A woman stirs a pot over a fire. It smells edible, barely. Cabbage, onions, maybe a bit of meat. She scratches her cheek and stirs again with the same hand. You realize there's no soap here. You haven't seen it, haven't smelled it, haven't even heard the word. It doesn't exist in daily life. Not yet. You look down at your shoes. They're coated in filth. Your hands are sticky. You touch your face and wince. Welcome to the Middle Ages. It only gets messier from here. You walk toward the village outskirts, where a cluster of huts backs onto open grassland. A soft wind blows past, but even that breeze carries the weight of ash livestock and fermented body odor. You glance at a group of villagers gathered around a water barrel. A man dips a wooden cup into the barrel and takes a slow sip. Then another person dunks their whole arm into it, rinsing off blood from a small cut. The water ripples cloudy now. No one seems concerned. That barrel holds the only easily accessible water nearby. The village well, while central, is often reserved for drinking and cooking. This water, fetched from a stream or caught from rain, is reused as much as possible. The idea of wasting water for something as frivolous as bathing is laughable. You lean closer and see insects skimming the surface. A child reaches in to splash his face. His skin shines for a moment, then dries into the same dull layer of grime. In medieval Europe, water wasn't seen as your friend. In fact, many believed it could betray you. The theory went like this: opening your pores with warm water made you vulnerable to disease. If bad air miasma entered your body through freshly steamed skin, you could get sick. It wasn't superstition for them, it was logic. Wet skin equals open doors to infection. You duck inside one of the smaller huts. It's a single room shared by a family. The air inside is smoky from a low fire burning peat. A small pot simmers on the coals. A woman crouches nearby, rubbing her arms. She glances at a wooden tub in the corner, empty and cracked. That's their bathing station, used maybe once a month if the weather is kind and water is available. The idea of soaking the body was seen differently depending on class and region. Wealthier households sometimes had a portable wooden tub which they might fill with heated water carried in pots. But heating water took time, wood, and labor. Most peasants didn't have that luxury. Even if they did, the family might all bathe one after the other in the same water from eldest to youngest. By the time it reached the last child, it was more like soup than bath water. You step outside again. A man passes you, his face glistening with sweat from hauling a bale of hay. You watch him wipe his face with his shirt sleeve. He'll let the sweat dry. That's his method of self-cleaning. There were bathhouses in some towns, public ones shared by anyone who could pay a small fee. But these establishments carried their own reputation. Yes, you could bathe, but you might also catch lice infections or even a social disease. Bathhouses doubled as places for gossip transactions and sometimes pleasure. They offered heat, steam, and scrubbing, but not always health. You remember one in the last town. The stone benches were cracked, and the water looked cloudy from a distance. You had walked past without stopping. In winter, bathing was nearly unthinkable. Frozen water sources made it impossible. Cold air turned wet skin into a danger. The idea of stripping naked in such weather was absurd. People simply waited until spring. You hear someone call out. A group of children run past you covered in dust. One has something smeared on his face, mud or berry juice, maybe both. A woman scolds them half-heartedly but doesn't clean them. Dirt is part of childhood. No one's worried. Historians still argue whether medieval people actually avoided bathing altogether or just did it differently than we understand. Some records mention ritual baths, festive cleaning before holy days, or specific medical washes. But for most villagers, hygiene was reactive. You washed when you had to, not before. You walk toward the river. It's wider than the village stream. A few people stand in the shallows, filling buckets or rinsing clothes. A man sits on a rock, shirtless, scrubbing his armpits with a damp rag. He flinches at the cold water, then continues. This might be his monthly rinse, or maybe he's preparing for a local feast. You look at your own hands. They're dusty, the creases lined with black. There's no soap to lather. You dip your fingers into the water. It's icy. It shocks you. You pull them out, shake them dry. The air leaves them numb. Soap, when it did exist, was often made from lye and animal fat. It stung the skin and smelled like boiled tallow. Few households made it. Fewer bought it. It wasn't for comfort. It was for laundry. You follow the path back into the village and pass an elderly woman seated on a stool. Her feet are bare, cracked, streaked with dirt. She wears thick woolen socks pushed down around her ankles. Her hands hold a wooden comb. She drags it slowly through her long gray hair, pulling out knots. A pile of lice-dusted hair clings to the comb's teeth. She flicks it aside. A chicken pecks at it. In times of illness, some would try herbal washes. Lavender, rosemary, even vinegar. But these were rare and usually reserved for the sick or the wealthy. Most people didn't have time or resources for scented treatments. Bathing was sometimes spiritual. Pilgrimages often ended with ritual cleansings, but for daily life it was an afterthought. You cleaned when you needed to if you had water, heat, and privacy. Most days you didn't. You pause at the edge of the village, watching a young man carrying a large bucket. He splashes water on a horse's legs, washing off caked mud. The horse gets a bath before the man does. That says enough. Cleanliness wasn't linked to morality yet. That came later. For now, survival meant enduring filth. Dirt was a layer of defense, a badge of labor, a fact of life. As you walk back toward your straw bedding, you wonder when your next wash will be. Not today. Probably not tomorrow. Maybe next feast day, if the rain holds off and the tub isn't being used for laundry. You scratch your arm absently. Something itches. You try not to think about it. The next morning comes slowly. Light creeps through the cracks in the wooden shutters. You wake up stiff, scratching at your elbow. Something bit you during the night. Probably fleas. You sit up and stretch. The straw mattress crackles beneath you. It smells like sweat and mildew. You roll your shoulders and glance at your hands. They're still dirty. Dust from yesterday is caked under your fingernails. Your fingers are stained from pulling beets and hauling wood. The dirt hasn't faded. It never really does. You look around. No sink, no water basin, no towel, just a splintered wooden shelf holding a cracked cup and a half-used candle. There's a cloth scrap in the corner you might use to rub your face. You decide not to. You step outside. The sun is higher now. The square is beginning to stir again. You watch a man scratching his scalp. He lifts his hand, flicks something into the street. His nails are dark. Probably lice eggs. He yawns, stretches, and moves on without a care. There is no habit of washing your hands before meals. No soap to scrub away grease or manure. You eat with those same hands. Everyone does. You wipe them on your tunic or your neighbor's sleeve if they aren't looking. When you butcher an animal, when you birth a calf, when you pick mushrooms or gather leeches, you just move on. You kneel beside a patch of grass. You rub your fingers in the dew. It helps a little, but the dirt stays. Your nails are full of it. Black lines under every fingertip. Some villagers bite theirs down just to avoid cleaning them. Others file them with stones. At the village bakehouse, the baker hands out hot loaves again. He uses bare hands. You watch a customer drop their loaf in the dirt, then pick it up, brush it off, and take a bite. The crust is hard enough to survive anything. Cleanliness isn't the goal. Eating is. You hear someone mention a feast in 2 days. That means more hands digging into shared platters. No utensils, just fingers. No one thinks twice. A man sneezes into his palm, wipes it on his pants. then reaches for a hunk of bread. This is normal. Children run by chasing a goose. One of them trips. She falls face first into a puddle of something unpleasant. She stands, dripping, laughing. Her mother shakes her head, but doesn't wash her. It'll dry. You pass a carpenter sanding a stool leg. His thumb has a cut. It's already crusted with blood and sawdust. No bandage, no rinse. He doesn't flinch. Infection is common. Sometimes you heal, sometimes you don't. People lose fingers, lose limbs. No one expects prevention, only endurance. You spot a young girl trying to clean a pot. She's scrubbing it with a bunch of reeds tied together. No soap, just friction. She spits into the pot and scrubs harder, then rinses it with a cup of murky water. She sets it aside, done. Historians still argue whether medieval people truly understood how germs spread or if they even believed in contamination at all. Some monastic texts suggest hand-washing rituals existed especially before meals or prayer. But for the average person, hands were tools not sacred. Washing them was rare. You scratch again. Your wrist itches constantly now. A flea, probably. You roll up your sleeve. There's a small welt, red and puffy. You press it, feel warmth. You ignore it. At the smithy, you watch the blacksmith hammer iron with calloused hands. His skin is stained with soot and sweat. He picks up a hunk of cheese with those same fingers, eats it, then spits a fly off his lip. He keeps chewing. You turn toward the animal pens. A boy milks a goat. The bucket is filthy. He wipes the rim with his sleeve and keeps pouring. Later, the milk will be boiled. That's the only cleaning it'll get. You notice a wooden ladle sitting in a bucket of water outside a home. It's been there all day. People pass by and sip from it. No one rinses it. No one refills the water. It's the communal drink. The wood smells sour. The rim is slimy. You walk past it. At the far end of the village, an older man tends to a bleeding pig. His hands are slick with blood. He wipes them on his apron, then scratches his chin, then his scalp, then wipes his eyes. No towels, no rinsing. Blood seeps into the folds of his knuckles. You see him later at the table for dinner, still stained, still eating. In one corner, a woman sits cross-legged sewing. A needle pricks her finger. She sucks the blood and keeps going. You remember the sting of the Black Plague stories, how some believed it spread by air, others by contact. But in day-to-day life, fingers touch everything. Even childbirth involves hands never washed. Midwives rely on herbs and hot water but clean hands. That's not part of the ritual. A woman screams in labor while a neighbor rubs her belly. The hands that help her have just come from pulling weeds or feeding pigs. You walk by a small shrine. Someone has left bread there. It's been touched by at least 6 people already. You watch another passers-by bless themselves and take a bite. They smile satisfied. Your own nails are now cracked. A bit of hay is stuck under one. You try to flick it out. It stays. You press it flat instead. There's no toothbrush, no nail clippers, no soap dish in this world. There's just your body, the earth, and what you can shake off. Tomorrow you'll touch more tools, more food, more faces. And you'll never once wash your hands. The morning light slants low across the village path. You stretch and yawn, but your jaw aches a little. You press your tongue to your teeth. There's a rough patch. Maybe food stuck there from 2 days ago. Maybe just plaque. You run your finger across your teeth and feel grit. They haven't been brushed. Not ever, not really. You reach into a pouch and pull out a small stick. The end is frayed, chewed to fibers. This is your toothbrush, or what passes for one. You gnaw it briefly, then rub it across your front teeth. No toothpaste, just friction. Your mouth tastes like wood. Bits of bark cling to your tongue. This was common. Chewing sticks known in some regions as toothwood were used to scrub the teeth mechanically. People broke off branches from aromatic trees, hazel, birch, sometimes mint or sage, and used them to scrape away what they could. It didn't remove much, but it was something. Next to you, a farmer sharpens a knife. He picks his teeth with a sliver of straw, then scratches his beard and keeps talking. Dental hygiene is not his concern. You hear a faint rattle. An old woman walks past with a string of garlic bulbs around her neck. She chews one clove raw. She says it keeps her teeth strong. Maybe it helps. Maybe it just masks the rot. You greet a merchant near the bakehouse. He smiles. 2 of his front teeth are missing. The rest are yellow and pointed inward. He pulls out a small cloth and dabs his gums. They bleed a little. He tucks the cloth away without looking. You feel a dull ache in your own molar. It comes and goes. There is no dentist here. No clean metal instruments. No anesthetic. If the tooth gets worse, someone will remove it with pliers or whatever passes for pliers. You've seen it done. A wooden wedge, a stone, a bottle of ale to bite. Historians still argue whether tooth decay was less common due to the lack of processed sugars. Some suggest medieval diets, especially among peasants, were coarse enough to keep teeth scraped clean. Others point to grave remains full of abscesses and broken teeth. The truth likely lies somewhere in the mud between. In a corner of the square, a friar preaches to a small crowd. He waves a scroll in one hand and points to his mouth. He warns them against gluttony. A woman coughs behind her hand. You glimpse blackened teeth in her open mouth. She wipes her lips and listens. Tooth powders did exist in some areas. Crushed herbs chalk ashes. Wealthy households might grind coral or bones. Some even used burnt bread crusts. But all these methods came without knowledge of bacteria or enamel. Scrubbing too hard often made things worse. You walk behind a butcher's stall. Meat scraps cling to his apron. He chews on a bone, cracks it, spits the pieces onto the dirt. He wipes his chin with the back of his hand. His breath carries from 3 paces away, sweet and foul at once. It's normal. You try rinsing your mouth at the stream. Cold water fills your cheeks. You swish and spit. Your teeth still feel rough. Your breath probably still smells like boiled cabbage. There's a tale whispered among the village children of a woman whose breath was so bad that her husband took her to a healer. The healer bled. Her arms burned sage near her mouth and told her to chew fennel for a month. It didn't work. He left her anyway. You walk toward a field where a group of men are breaking soil. One stops to rest. He digs into a pouch, pulls out a twig of juniper, and begins rubbing it on his gums. He says it brings the flavor back. You nod, though you're not sure what flavor he means. Nearby, a dog gnaws on a skull. It's probably from the charnel pit behind the church. Teeth remain in the jaw. Clean, smooth white. Death keeps teeth better than life. In the evening, someone brings out a jug of mead. You take a sip. It's sweet, thick. It coats your tongue. You try your chewing stick again afterward. It helps slightly, but you still feel the sticky glaze over your molars. Toothaches are common. Some people just live with them. Others go to a bone setter or even the local blacksmith, who sometimes doubles as a tooth puller. He heats his iron tools, wipes them once, and pries until the tooth breaks or the pain stops. Or both. You meet a traveling tinker with one gold tooth. It gleams oddly in the firelight. He says it came from a far land. He grins proudly. It's held in place with pitch and prayer. You hear tales of mouthwash rare and strange. Some nobles rinse with vinegar, others with wine. One knight was said to gargle with urine. You choose not to investigate that further. There's also superstition. Some believe a toothache is punishment for lies. Others think a worm lives in the tooth chewing from the inside. They heat metal to kill the worm. It rarely ends well. You hear a scream late one night. A woman clutching her face. A neighbor tries to help. They tie a string to the tooth and to a door. The result is blood and silence. The tooth comes out. The pain stays. By moonlight, you look at your own reflection in a water barrel. Your teeth are faint shadows. You open your mouth, poke at the molar again. Still sore, still there. You roll a twig between your fingers. You chew the end. You keep rubbing. It's not perfect. It's not clean. But it's the only dental care you'll get in this life. The rooster crows again. You pull your cloak tighter and step outside. The ground is still damp from last night's drizzle. Your feet sink slightly with each step. As you walk down the narrow path, you pass a group of women gathering herbs. One of them tucks a stalk of rosemary behind her ear. Her hair is slicked back under a cloth cap. It's hard to tell when she last washed it. You reach up and touch your own scalp. The strands feel greasy, heavy, almost waxy. A dull, sour smell clings to them. You run your fingers through and feel something shift, something small. Lice. You pinch and pull. A tiny shape wriggles between your nails. You flick it away and keep walking. You don't flinch anymore. In the medieval world, lice weren't an embarrassment. They were an assumption. Everyone had them: peasants, nobles, clergy. Rich or poor, your scalp hosted a living colony. You might scratch your head during conversation, pick nits out of your child's hair at dinner, or casually crush a louse on your thumb and move on. There were ways to manage it, if not cure it. Some rubbed vinegar into the scalp. Others applied ashes or garlic. Few shaved their heads completely except monks, whose tonsures at least gave them some relief. Most wore cloth caps to trap the lice and keep them from crawling into bed straw. It didn't really work. You walk toward a wash line. Linen shifts slightly in the breeze. Some hoods, some tunics. Most clothes aren't washed often, but head coverings are aired out when possible. That's the only relief your scalp gets. A young boy runs past you, giggling, his curly hair tangled with twigs. His mother grabs him by the arm, swats at his head, and pulls out a beetle. She tosses it. He laughs harder. She doesn't. Historians still argue whether medieval people considered lice dangerous or simply annoying. Some treatises called them punishments for sin. Others blamed them on the stars. Either way, people didn't expect to be rid of them. They simply lived with the scratching. You step into a small cottage. A woman is combing her daughter's hair with a thick-toothed wooden comb. The girl winces with each pull. The mother leans in close, inspecting the strands for nits. When she finds one, she pinches it and drops it into a small clay bowl. The bowl is half full. You remember that even royalty had servants for this task. Combing for lice was a daily chore. One noble woman reportedly had a servant whose only job was delousing her wigs. Wigs were everywhere by the late medieval period. Not fashion so much as function worn to cover up baldness from lice infection or treatment burns. You pass a man whose beard is thick and wild. He's rubbing fat into it, goose grease maybe, to tame the flyaways. He says it keeps the lice from crawling down. You don't ask if it works. There were no shampoos, no conditioners. Washing hair meant pouring cold water over your head or dunking it in a stream. If you had soap, it might sting your scalp. Most didn't bother. Perfumed hair oil existed, but only in noble courts, and even then it was often used to hide smells, not to remove them. In one home, you watch a young woman threading ribbons into her braids. Her fingers are quick, practiced. Her hair shines slightly cleaner than most. You learn that she's preparing for a wedding. A special bath was drawn last night. Hot water, rosemary leaves, and maybe even some goat milk. An exception, not the rule. In another corner of the village, a man ties a kerchief tightly around his head. He's going to market. His hair is long, limp, and unwashed. The cloth is his solution for fashion, for lice, for shame. Later that afternoon, you sit by a cooking fire. The smoke drifts upward, curling around your face and hair. The smell lingers. Hair captures smoke, grease dust, and sweat. You know it'll stay until the next rain, the next stream, the next vinegar rinse whenever that comes. There's a mirror shard hanging on a post. You peer into it. Your hair is flat dull, separating in thick clumps. You try brushing it with a bundle of straw. It tangles instead. You remember a friar once spoke of head demons, evil spirits that nested in hair. He sold ointments made from sheep tallow and rosewater. They didn't work, but people bought them anyway. At the edge of the village, you find a stream. You crouch and dunk your head in the cold water. It burns. You hold your breath. Pull back. Your scalp feels tight. You shake out the water. It doesn't feel clean, just wet. By nightfall, your hair is dry again, but only in the technical sense. It still smells like smoked goat and firewood. You tie a cloth around it, hoping to keep the lice from spreading. A woman nearby brushes her hair with her fingers. She yawns. A louse crawls over her temple. She plucks it and tosses it into the fire. It sizzles. No one says a word. You lie down on your straw bed. You scratch once, twice. You feel a scab on your scalp. You press it flat and close your eyes. This is hair in the Middle Ages. No shampoo, no salon, no escape. The sky is still pale when you wake up. A rooster calls again, hoarse from overuse. You stretch and sit up slowly. Your back aches from the lumpy straw. But what pulls you upright faster is the sudden, unmistakable pressure in your lower belly. You need to relieve yourself. You rise, pull on your cloak, and step outside. It's chilly. The ground is slick with dew and scattered refuse. You glance around. Most houses don't have any attached bathroom. Of course they don't. Indoor plumbing is several centuries and a continent away. You make your way toward the edge of the village where a row of low wooden sheds stands in the shadows. These are the privy's outhouses, if you're being generous. Just tall enough to crouch inside, not quite tall enough to stand up straight. You push open one creaking door. Inside is a wooden bench with a hole cut in the middle. Below that, well below, is a pit, a dark, unseeable place filled with smells that cling to your throat. Flies buzz lazily above the opening. The floor is damp, with what you choose not to ask. There is no toilet paper. That won't be invented for many centuries. Instead, you glance around for whatever someone has left: a wad of moss, a handful of straw, a torn bit of fabric. You settle for straw. It's dry, sort of. You use it carefully. You step back outside, wiping your hands on the grass. There is no hand-washing basin, no soap, nothing but morning air and hope. The smell lingers in your nose. Everyone smells it. Nobody mentions it. Chamber pots are more common than privies, especially at night. Each household usually has one, a small ceramic bowl tucked under the bed or near the hearth. You relieve yourself in the pot, then toss it out the door at dawn. Some houses have designated spots for dumping. Most don't. This morning you nearly step in such a dump zone. A brown smear streaks the dirt. A dog sniffs it. In cities, the situation is worse. Narrow alleyways between buildings become makeshift latrines. People empty their chamber pots out of upper windows with a quick warning gardeloo or something close to it. If you hear it too late, well, that's your problem. You remember passing a man in town with stains on his boots. You looked away. Public latrines exist in some towns, wooden planks over streams. They reek year-round. During feast days, lines form. People joke about the smells. It's the only way to bear it. You walk back toward the village square. A cart passes. Its wheels are crusted with filth. The driver spits and flicks something from his sleeve. You recognize the stiff cloth of someone who's used it too many times for too many things. There's a pit behind the tanner's shop. It's technically for waste hides, but people use it for other waste too. The stench marks it well. Flies swarm constantly. Historians still argue whether medieval villages had consistent sanitation systems. Some records describe organized waste collection. Others suggest it was random, chaotic, and left to chance. The truth? Likely a bit of both. Some communities enforced dumping zones. Others didn't bother. You pass a child squatting beside a fence. He's too young for modesty. His mother doesn't stop him. She just continues cutting vegetables. Women often used long skirts to hide such moments. They'd squat quickly in alleys or near shrubs, shielded by fabric. No one stared. Everyone understood. Men might step behind a tree, a wall, or just turn slightly. At night, they used the chamber pot. In the morning, they dumped it. Simple. Routine. Bathhouses occasionally had privies attached, but not all did. And you didn't go to the bathhouse to relieve yourself, you went to sweat soak and sometimes socialize. Sanitation was separate and rarely better. You approach the church. Even here in the house of God, the facilities are crude. Monks might have a separate room with a channel flowing beneath it. A bit cleaner, but still just a hole over running water. Some castles had garderobe stone seats built over tall shafts. Waste dropped down the walls and sometimes into the moat. Guards knew never to walk too close. You remember standing near one and hearing the trickle even days after it rained. People carried small cloths or sponges for cleaning. Some used their hand, then rinsed it in a basin, or didn't rinse at all. There was no standard, just necessity. You walk past the garden now. A woman kneels near the cabbage. She holds her belly and grimaces. You look away. When she's done, she wipes her hands on the grass. This is where manure ends up, too. Human waste is sometimes used as fertilizer. Carefully, ideally composted. But not always. You wonder which cabbages received it. You remember an old man telling you to watch where the night soil goes. Eat from the wrong side of the field, he said, and you'll spend the next 3 days groaning. You believed him. In the evening, you sit near the fire. Someone passes around a jug. You drink carefully. The taste is strong sour. You ask if the water was clean. The reply, it boiled. That's clean enough. You feel your stomach twist slightly. You hope it's just the mead. Later that night, you use the chamber pot. You set it near the door. It sloshes. You cover it with a cloth. You lie down again on the straw. You scratch at your ankle. The smell of the pot is faint now, dulled by the room's other layers of smoke and sweat. This is what going to the bathroom looks like in the Middle Ages. No flush, no seat, no privacy, no escape. The sun rises slowly again, casting long shadows across the courtyard. You stand outside your cottage and stretch your arms. Your tunic clings to your sides, sticky from yesterday's sweat. Your legs feel stiff, your feet damp from the morning ground. You shift slightly and feel the rough linen underclothes against your skin. They haven't been changed in days. Maybe a week. You glance down and tug at the edge of your chemise. It smells of smoke, earth, and human salt. There's no stain you can see, but the stiffness in the fabric tells the truth. In medieval times, underclothes weren't washed daily. They were worn for days, sometimes weeks. That's what linen was for not beauty, but to soak up the body's waste so outer garments stayed acceptable. You head toward the stream. On a flat rock nearby, 2 women are scrubbing undergarments. One uses a wooden paddle to beat a linen shift. The other scrapes a rag along the fabric with sand. There is no soap, only water sand and a rhythm. They talk as they scrub. One woman laughs, the other frowns. They've found a louse, not alive anymore. They flick it into the stream and keep working. You recall that washing linen was more common than washing the body. Changing into clean linen was considered an act of cleanliness. If you changed shirts, you were clean, even if you hadn't bathed. One noblewoman wrote in her diary that she felt fresh after donning new linen. She hadn't bathed in a month. You watch as the women wring out the garments. They drape them over bushes and stones. The sun will do the rest. In the village square, a man adjusts his doublet. He sniffs beneath his arm, then shrugs. He wears a fresh linen shirt today. He is clean by every reasonable standard around him. You walk past a cart filled with wool blankets. They haven't been washed in months. They're too heavy, too coarse. Instead, they're hung in the sun every so often, beaten with sticks, and returned to the bed. The smell is persistent. So are the fleas. Historians still argue whether linen was truly effective as a deodorant layer. Some suggest it simply trapped the smell closer to the skin. Others claim it genuinely protected outerwear and helped prevent infection. The truth might depend on thread count. You return to your own hut and open your chest. Inside are 2 shirts. One is slightly cleaner. You choose it. You remove your chemise, shake out the dust, and lay it across the window. You tug the cleaner shirt over your head. It clings less. Smells only of straw. You feel better. Laundry day is not a weekly event. It's dictated by water supply, weather, and time. On feast days or before holy celebrations, women might gather for communal washing. But most days, clothes remain on the body until they're stiff or visibly soiled. You follow the path to the edge of town. A noblewoman rides by on horseback. Her gown is layered wool over silk over linen. She dabs her face with a perfumed cloth. You catch a whiff of lavender. It masks the scent of sweat, not because she bathes, but because she doesn't. Her maid rides behind her carrying extra linens wrapped in oilcloth. The scent is faint but pleasant. Perfume was not about attraction, it was about function. Roses, violets, and spices used to drown out the truth. You visit the monastery later in the day. A monk leads you through the cloister. Their habits are simpler, their linens whiter. He tells you they wash their garments once a week. It's part of their devotion, not for cleanliness of body but for purity of soul. You nod, though your skin itches under your own shirt. Back in the village, you sit beside the fire. A man next to you smells like tallow and sweat. He scratches his belly through his tunic. His linen underclothes have yellowed at the collar. He drinks deeply from a cup and wipes his mouth on his sleeve. No one minds. You glance down. Your hands are smudged with ash. Your shirt is stiff at the cuffs. The back of your neck feels damp. The collar holds that dampness like a sponge. You remember stories of people sharing garments. A shirt passed from one brother to another. A wife mending her husband's only pair of hose. Clothes were expensive. Linen cost silver. You didn't own much. What you had, you wore. There were no wardrobes full of options, no scented closets. Just one trunk, one shift, one hope for fair weather on washing day. As the sky dims, you lie back on your straw bed. Your linen clings to your skin. It smells faintly of firewood grass and something older. You scratch your thigh. The cloth chafes. But at least it's dry now. Changing your shirt is the cleanest you'll feel this week. Morning again. The village begins to stir. You hear the low clatter of wooden wheels, the clucking of hens, the rhythmic thud of a hammer on metal. You step outside and take a breath and regret it. The air smells ripe, not just of earth and livestock, but of people. People who haven't bathed, haven't changed clothes, and haven't brushed teeth in days. Maybe longer. You walk toward the path that leads uphill where the manor house sits above the village. The air changes slightly as you climb. Less manure, more wood smoke. But the odor of unwashed skin still lingers. At the gates you're greeted by a servant. She bows. You notice her perfume immediately. Not subtle, overwhelming. roses, cloves, and maybe vinegar, a liquid veil designed to smother the stench beneath it. Inside, the noble family prepares for a midday visit from guests. Servants bustle about with cloths and bowls. No one is bathing. Instead, they're dabbing their hands and faces with scented water. A basin holds water infused with mint, another with orange peel. One maid wipes her master's neck with a rag dipped in wine. He grunts in satisfaction. Perfume is everywhere, sprinkled on linens, dabbed behind ears, rubbed into beards. The goal is not to be clean, but to appear clean, to smell like flowers rather than sweat. A noblewoman enters the hall. Her gown is embroidered stiff with ornament. You notice a small vial at her waist. She opens it and inhales deeply. It's her protection against the world. She'll hold it to her nose when passing through the village. You follow a servant into the solar. He lights a small censer filled with dried lavender. The smoke curls around the stone walls. You feel it coat your tongue. Better than the reek of yesterday's meat, but still cloying. Historians still argue whether perfumes masked filth or served spiritual purposes. Some claim certain scents were believed to ward off illness. Others think they were purely cosmetic. But in both views, bathing was rarely the solution. Scent was. You walk to the kitchen. A cook bastes a bird with honey and herbs. The smell is rich, oily warm. It blends with the sweat of the scullery maid beside her. She has rubbed rosemary on her arms. It doesn't help much, but it's what she has. In one corner, a boy grinds dried rose petals into powder. He mixes them with chalk and wraps the blend in linen packets. These sachets will be sewn into sleeves or hung near beds, not for pleasure, but for defense. Against stench, against miasma. There's a story among the staff of a lady who fainted after entering the lower courtyard. Her husband ordered that buckets of rose water be poured on the stones before her next visit. You look out a window toward the village. Smoke rises from cook fires. You know the smells that await you down there: dung, sweat, rot, breath. Here in the manor it's no different underneath the spices, but at least it's hidden. The master of the house strides by. His beard glistens with oil. His boots are polished. His breath smells of cloves, though his teeth are stained. He speaks of appearances. He nods at his reflection. He does not speak of soap. Soap, when it is used here, is imported, hard to find, made from olive oil and lye. Castile soap from distant lands, expensive, reserved for special linens or court presentations, rarely for skin. You visit the lady's chamber. Her maid fans her while she combs scented powder into her hair. It falls in clouds. The brush leaves pale lines on her scalp. She smiles, but scratches her neck when she thinks no one is watching. One guest arrives early. A nobleman from another shire. He enters holding a nosegay to his face. A small bouquet of herbs meant to block out foul smells. He doesn't lower it until he reaches the high table. These nosegays are common. Rich and poor carry them. Not for show, for survival. When walking through streets, markets, or plague-touched villages, a nosegay between the lips was believed to filter the air, to keep sickness out, to keep filth away. You sit in the great hall during the meal. The food smells better than it tastes. boiled meats, dried fruit, warm bread. The guests eat with fingers. They wipe their hands on cloth napkins or on their tunics. Between courses, the servants pass basins of scented water. Guests dip their fingers. No soap, just a rinse. It's enough. You return to the village that evening. A woman walks past you holding a sprig of mint to her nose. She doesn't greet you. She's focused on breathing. Perfume exists at every level. The peasants rub garlic on their skin to hide body odor. The middle class might soak linen in vinegar. The nobles use imported oils. All are trying to do the same thing, pretend they're clean. You reach your hut and remove your cloak. The fabric is stiff with old sweat. You hang it on a nail and reach for a pouch of herbs. You crush a bit of sage and rub it under your arms. It helps faintly. Not enough, but enough to sleep. You lie down and breathe in. Smoke, earth, sweat, and sage. This is your scent. This is how cleanliness smells in the Middle Ages. Not fresh, not pure, but hidden under layers of perfume and hope. The air is heavy again today, unmoving. You wake to the sound of coughing. Not a dry cough. It rattles deep and wet from the neighbor's hut. Someone is sick. You sit up slowly. Your muscles ache. You feel a tenderness along your jaw where that tooth still nags you. But no one calls a doctor for pain. Not here. Not unless it gets worse. You step outside and see a familiar figure near the church wall. A man in dark robes. A healer. A barber surgeon. One of many who travels from village to village. He carries a worn satchel, a bundle of dried herbs, and a long wooden staff. He looks tired already. You approach him. He greets you with a nod and the faint smell of mustard and vinegar. He's been applying poultices again. You mention the child with the cough. He frowns and mutters something about humors. In medieval medicine, hygiene is less about cleanliness and more about balance. The body contains 4 humors: blood phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Illness means imbalance. Clean water isn't part of the theory. Clean air is. He steps into the neighbor's home. You follow behind quietly. The sick child lies curled under a wool blanket. His cheeks are flushed. A basin beside the bed holds phlegm and worse. The healer checks the child's tongue, feels the pulse, then sets a small pot of leeches by the hearth. Leeches are common. They draw blood, relieve pressure, restore balance, so the thinking goes. The healer applies one to the child's arm. The creature latches on quickly. The child doesn't cry. Historians still argue whether leech therapy had any measurable benefit. Some claim it reduced fevers temporarily. Others call it a harmful superstition. But in the absence of soap antiseptics or antibiotics, it was what they had. You step outside again. A woman is preparing an herbal wash in a small bowl. Rosemary vinegar and boiled water. She dips a rag into the mixture and wipes her face. She offers you a turn. You accept. The cloth is hot, sharp with vinegar. It stings slightly. But your skin feels clearer for a moment. Doctors, if you can call them that often, warned against bathing. Warm water, they said, opened the skin. Let illness in. Better to stay dry and sealed. Scrubbed too hard, a person became vulnerable. You remember hearing a friar explain that dirt protected the body. It shields you from the corruption of the world, he said, and from the gaze of temptation. Still, not all healers agreed. Some recommended washing hands before meals or rinsing the face daily, but without consistent tools, even the best intentions faltered. You pass another cottage. A man moans softly inside. His leg is swollen. A boil the size of a plum throbs at the knee. The barber surgeon prepares his tools: a curved knife, a bit of linen, a small iron pin. There will be no anesthesia, no antiseptic, just wine to dull the edge if they have it. The doctor cuts. The boil hisses. Pus drains onto the earth floor. The man screams, then faints. The wound is packed with moss. The blade is wiped on a rag. You walk away slowly. At the edge of the village, a woman boils willow bark. She pours the bitter liquid into a clay cup and offers it to her husband. It's for his aching joints. Natural aspirin. It helps, maybe. Or maybe it just passes time. Inside a large home, a nobleman's daughter lies feverish. The healer has arrived with his astrological charts. He aligns the stars, checks the moon phase, and declares the time right for bloodletting. They draw 2 cups from her wrist. She sleeps afterward. Her skin is pale. The family burns incense near her bed. They wave herbs to purify the air. A servant sprinkles rose water on the floor. None of it will stop the fever, but it gives the illusion of action. You sit beneath a tree thinking of your own pains. Your gums still throb. Your skin itches. A sore on your ankle has crusted over. You scratch it gently. There is no clinic, no clean table, no surgical gloves. Illness is treated with ritual guesswork and habit. You remember a man in another village who tried to bathe every week. He was mocked, called vain. The priest told him to be humble in his dirt. He stopped. Another man believed in drinking a cup of honeyed water each morning. He died in spring from the pox. You pass a mother pressing garlic into her daughter's palm. Chew this when the air turns bad, she says. It will chase the evil spirits from your breath. Nearby, a bundle of dried lavender hangs from a doorway, a charm against disease. Above it, a horseshoe, another layer of protection. There is fear in the air, not just of death, but of foulness, of unclean spirits, of imbalance. They do what they can with what they believe. The barber surgeon packs his satchel. He's been paid in eggs and bread. He leaves without washing his hands. You head back to your hut. The neighbor's child is quiet now, resting for now. The leech jar still sits on the hearth half full. You rub your hands on your cloak. They still smell of vinegar. That might be the cleanest they'll be for a while. This is how medicine and hygiene meet in the Middle Ages. No sterilization, no safety, just routine superstition and blood. A chill sweeps through the village. The leaves rustle with the dull weight of early sickness. You rise and feel it heavier air a scratch in your throat, the quiet hush of people avoiding eye contact. Something's wrong. You pass a cluster of neighbors whispering near the church steps. A woman clutches her shawl tightly. Her eyes scan the faces around her. One name is spoken: someone from the next village has died. No one says the word plague, but it hangs there anyway, thick and leaden. You walk toward the square. Fewer people are out. Those who are, move quickly. A boy drags a cart of firewood. His nose runs freely. His shirt sleeve is streaked from wiping it again and again. A priest rings the bell earlier than usual. The sound carries flat through the cold air. He stands in the doorway of the chapel holding a cloth soaked in lavender under his nose. He waves you in with the other villagers. Inside the benches are fuller than normal. People have come for answers, or at least comfort. The priest speaks of sin, of cleansing the soul. He makes no mention of washing the body. Afterward, you step outside with the others. The church door shuts quickly behind you. You hear coughing. Multiple voices, all different. No one says anything. They disperse in silence. Disease always lurks nearby. When it comes, the blame begins. People blame the water, the smell, the neighbors, the strangers. Jews, lepers, foreigners. Anyone but themselves. You walk past a door marked with ash. Someone inside is sick. The mark keeps others out. It doesn't stop the illness. In town, panic spreads. People light fires in the streets to purify the air. They carry herbs and onions in their pockets. Some smear tar beneath their noses. They avoid touching. They avoid each other's breath. You remember the stories. In the last outbreak, people fled into the hills. They thought fresh air was the answer. Others locked themselves in cellars. Some marched barefoot through towns, whipping their own backs to earn God's forgiveness. Historians still argue whether miasma theory, the idea that disease travels through bad air, delayed the discovery of germs or saved people by accident. Fires and herbs may have killed some bacteria, but not enough. You hear of a man who hasn't left his cottage in 4 days. He breathes through a sponge soaked in vinegar. He boils rosemary daily and pours it into the ground near his door. His wife says he hasn't bathed in weeks to keep his natural armor intact. You remember, too, that plague doctors wore long robes and beaked masks filled with flowers and spice. Those masks didn't stop infection, but they kept the stench away. And the stench, they believed, was the danger. In a small home near the edge of the village, a mother burns old clothes. She says her son wore them when he started coughing. She stirs the fire with a stick, her hands shaking. The smoke smells bitter. You walk near the bathhouse. It's closed, locked from the outside. People think the heat might spread the sickness. Others fear the steam might invite it in. In towns with public latrines, some are now sealed. Too many foul airs, they say. Better to suffer discomfort than let bad air into the lungs. Even the tannery, once ignored, now draws attention. People say its stench might hide something worse, or attract it. In the market, prices rise. Garlic costs double. Vinegar sells out. Clean linen is bartered for apples. A merchant wears gloves made of waxed cloth. He refuses to touch coins. A woman walks by wearing a necklace of dried oranges. Another carries a dead bird nailed to a board, convinced it will pull disease into its body instead of hers. You visit the healer again. He mixes crushed myrrh into hot wine, says it strengthens the heart. You sip. It burns. He says to stay indoors, to avoid moisture, to avoid laughter, to avoid sin. That night, a body is carried past your window, wrapped in linen shoulders, slumped forward, silent. No one speaks the name. The man who carries it wears no mask, just a sprig of thyme tied to his sleeve. You stare at the floor. You wonder how many have washed today, how many will. You check your own hands. The skin is rough cracked, dirt under the nails. You press your fingertips to your face. Your skin is warm, not hot, not yet. You boil water. You add mint leaves and cloves. You dip a cloth, wring it, wipe your neck and forehead. It feels clean. For a moment. Outside, another bell rings. Someone else has fallen sick. This is how plague and hygiene intersect in the Middle Ages, through scent, belief, and fear. No medicine, no soap, just hope and the smell of burning herbs. The sky darkens with heavy clouds, and a fine mist begins to fall. You pull your cloak tighter and follow a winding path toward the edge of town. A stone building rises through the haze, small, windowless, with steam curling from vents near the roof. You've arrived at the bathhouse. Bathhouses in medieval Europe vary widely. Some towns have several, others none. This one was built 2 generations ago, funded by a local lord hoping to earn favor with the bishop. It has served the village since, sometimes as a place of washing, sometimes as a source of trouble. You push open the heavy door. Warm air envelops you, thick, moist, and tinged with the smell of old wood herbs and something less pleasant. You step into a stone chamber. Benches line the walls. Steam pours from an open archway leading to the next room. Men and women sometimes bathe separately, but not always. Rules shift with region and occasion. Today, the men's hours have begun. You hear low voices, laughter a splash. You move toward the changing room. A young attendant gestures for your boots. He sets them aside with others. Most people here are barefoot now. The floor is damp, streaked with footprints and puddles. You undress slowly. The air is warmer than outside, but the stone is cold against your skin. You wrap a cloth around your waist and step into the next room. A large wooden tub stands in the center, surrounded by smaller ones. Buckets line the walls, filled with hot and cold water. A man pours herbs, sage and rosemary, into a pot hanging over a brazier. The scent thickens. You step into the big tub. The water is warm, almost hot. It covers your legs, then your waist. You sigh. It's the first full immersion in days, maybe weeks. Others join you. A blacksmith, a baker, an older man with scars on his arms. No one speaks at first, just soaking. You glance around. No soap here. Just cloths, scrapers, and buckets. You rub your arms with a linen rag. It turns gray. You scrub harder. Next to you, the blacksmith leans back, his hair slick with water. He holds a curved bone scraper and runs it down his arm. Dirt and oil collect on the edge. He rinses it in the bucket. He offers it to you. You accept. You scrape slowly. It pulls more than dirt. It lifts dead skin, sweat old oils. You rinse the blade in silence. Historians still debate how often common people used bathhouses. Some records suggest once a week. Others say once a season. But when they did go, it was both necessity and ritual. A reset. You move to a smaller tub filled with cooler water. You sit on the edge and pour it over your head. It runs down your back in rivulets. You shiver slightly. Your skin begins to feel something like clean. In another corner, an attendant stirs a pot of lye soap. Rare, harsh, only a few request it. He hands it to a wealthy merchant who dabs it on his chest. It stings. He winces. Another man coughs. His chest rattles. No one says anything. He dips a cloth in hot water and presses it to his face. He stays still. In some towns, bathhouses are places of health. In others, sin. Some churchmen warn against them, calling them distractions. Others say, bathing together leads to temptation. In some cities, bathhouses are shut down during holy days. In others, they are blessed. You remember hearing of a bishop who bathed every week and believed cleanliness honored God. Another priest said the opposite, that clean skin meant a dirty soul. In this village, the bathhouse walks that line. Respected, but watched. Functional, not indulgent. You notice scars on a man's legs. Old burns maybe from the forge. You see boils healing on another's back. Here, people reveal what their clothes conceal. Not just skin, but lives. An old man enters. He walks slowly, leaning on a stick. The other bathers shift to make room. He lowers himself into the water with care. He exhales deeply. He's silent for a long time. Someone passes you a cloth soaked in elderflower water. You wipe your face. The scent is mild earthy. Not perfume, just nature boiled. You stand and rinse your limbs one more time. The water runs clear now. You step out, dripping. The cold air wraps around you. In the drying room, rough towels wait. You pat your skin dry. Your feet pick up new dirt from the floor, but the rest of you feels lighter, less burdened. You dress slowly. Your linen shirt clings to warm skin. Your cloak smells faintly cleaner now. Or perhaps you just notice it more. As you leave, the attendant hands you a cup of water. You sip. It's warm. Tastes of mint and iron. You nod your thanks. Outside, the mist has lifted. The air smells sharper, or maybe it's you. Bathing isn't common. It's not expected. But when it happens, it is an event, a risk, a luxury, a gamble between health and harm. You walk back toward the village. Your skin cools. Your hair drips. The road is muddy, but you feel a little lighter. Tomorrow the bathhouse will open to women. Then it will close again for days. Steam rises behind you, fading into the clouds. Late afternoon sun slants across the village green, casting long shadows from crooked posts and sagging rooftops. You sit on a low bench beside the cobbler's stall, pulling at the edge of your cloak. Your scalp itches again. You haven't changed your shirt in 3 days, but your mind is elsewhere. A woman passes by wearing an elaborate headdress. Beneath it, a patch of bare skin glints in the sunlight. Her eyebrows are gone. Not shaved, plucked clean. A thin line has been drawn in their place with burnt wood and tallow. This is the fashion among nobility now. A pale forehead, smooth and clean. You rise and follow the narrow street toward the manor house. The upper class lives differently. Not cleaner, just differently. Inside, you find a chambermaid brushing out a wig. Real hair coiled tightly and pinned to a mannequin head. She dusts it with powder, ground iris root, and rice flour. The powder falls in clouds, whitening everything it touches. The scent is sharp, like dried petals and chalk. Wigs are a necessity here, not because they enjoy them, but because real hair doesn't last. Lice infest every scalp. Boils rise in clusters. Some have hair loss from disease. Others shave as a preventative. Wigs cover what nature or infection has taken. You remember a tale of a lord who wore a powdered wig even while hunting boar. It smelled like rosemary lavender and pipe smoke. Beneath it, his scalp was raw. A servant invites you to sit. You do. She offers a tray of ointments. Most are made from pig fat mixed with herbs. One promises to reduce swelling. Another claims to restore luster. You rub a dab onto your fingers. It melts immediately. Your skin glistens. Next to the tray, a painted wooden box holds jars of powder. Not for cleaning, for concealment. Pale dust to lighten the face, dark soot to rim the eyes, red ochre to stain the lips. Appearance over hygiene. The noblewoman enters the chamber. Her gown rustles with weight. She holds a small hand mirror and examines her cheeks. She lifts her wig, carefully scratches behind her ear, then lowers it again. She turns her head and frowns at a dark spot on her jaw. A mole. The maid reaches for a beauty patch, a small black velvet circle, and presses it to the spot. It stays disguising the blemish as fashion. You observe quietly. Everything here is for show. Even disease is painted over. Historians still argue whether these cosmetic rituals were purely aesthetic or part of daily hygiene. Some say the powders absorbed sweat. Others say they caused rashes. But they were everywhere, especially in noble courts. You glance toward the table. A small tin jar catches your eye. It contains crushed pearls, meant to be mixed with vinegar and dabbed onto the skin, a symbol of wealth, not cleanliness. You walk toward the hearth. A warming pan rests nearby, filled with coal ash. A servant stirs it. He says it's for the lady's bed to chase away the chill and the fleas. You smile, faintly. The fleas are winning. The lady reclines on a cushioned bench now. She holds a silver toothpick and carefully probes between her front teeth. When she finishes, she wipes it clean on a square of linen. She folds it, places it back on the tray, and sips from a goblet of clove wine. You turn to the window. Outside, another servant pours a bucket of vinegar over the steps, not to clean them, but to mask the smell of yesterday's refuse. Later, you enter the Lord's private study. He has a tray of pomanders on his desk, round metal orbs filled with resin ambergris and musk. He opens one and waves it under his nose. The air is thick today, he says. You nod. He scratches at his collar. You notice a small welt on his neck. He adjusts his tunic to hide it. Evening approaches. In the withdrawing room, a musician plays quietly while the noble guests sip wine. You pass behind a chair and catch the scent of damp wool and rose oil. A woman's perfume is strong, but beneath it, her gown smells of mildew. You step outside briefly. The cool air bites. You scratch your shoulder. Your own shirt feels tight with dried sweat. You pull your cloak tighter. A page boy runs past holding a tray of fresh flowers. The scent is overwhelming. He's been instructed to scatter them in the chamber for the night. fragrance as a barrier, not for joy, for denial. You return to your hut long after sunset. The straw mattress welcomes you with its usual musty scent. You lie back and close your eyes. You dream of wigs that crawl, painted smiles, and velvet dots that hide sores. You wake scratching again. This is noble hygiene, decorated, disguised, and powdered into silence. The monastery lies beyond the eastern ridge, past the barley fields and the old mill. You walk the dirt path slowly, early, light filtering through the trees. The air smells cleaner here. Less smoke, fewer animals. You tighten your cloak and keep walking. Bells ring faintly in the distance. You arrive at the gate just as a monk opens it from inside. He nods, once says nothing, and gestures for you to enter. The courtyard is swept. The stones washed from last night's rain. Rainwater collects in basins carved from stone. You pause beside one. A ladle rests atop it. The monk dips the ladle into the water and pours it slowly over his hands. He rubs them together in silence, fingers gliding over skin and knuckles. No soap. But the action itself is deliberate, reverent. You follow him down a narrow corridor. The walls are whitewashed, the windows high and thin. The air smells of beeswax, fresh bread, and faint lavender. You're taken to the cloister walk, a covered passage surrounding a quiet garden. Other monks move about slowly. Their steps are soft. Their robes brush lightly against the stone. One of them tends a line of garments hanging to dry. Simple tunics and underrobes, all made of coarse wool or linen. You watch as he shakes out each one gently before pinning it again. These are washed weekly, more often than anything you've seen in the village. You sit on a low bench. Across the way, a monk washes his feet in a shallow wooden basin. He hums quietly. He scrubs with a cloth, paying attention to each toe. He pours the water out into the garden soil when finished. You realize this is not luxury. It is discipline. Monastic life demands a different rhythm. Cleanliness is not for pride here. It is for order, for worship, for humility. You are led to the refectory, the dining hall. Before entering, each monk stops at a basin and washes his hands, carefully, slowly. Not a rinse, a cleansing, no soap still, but 2 full passes with water and cloth. Historians note that monasteries often maintained higher hygiene standards than the surrounding populations. Many had rules requiring regular washing of hands, feet, and faces. Some had bathhouses within the complex used on specific days. Others maintained latrines with flowing water, rare anywhere else. You are shown the lavatorium, an actual washing chamber. A long stone trough runs along one wall, fed by a small channel of diverted stream water. Towels hang neatly on pegs. A monk kneels, washing vegetables in the same water. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. Dual use is common. Water is precious even here. In the dormitory, straw bedding lines the walls in rows. Each space is sparse but tidy. The air is dry. No smoke, no mold. Windows are opened each morning to air the spirit. This, you're told, keeps both illness and temptation at bay. Another monk leads you outside to a structure near the outer wall, the latrine. Unlike the village privy, this one is cleaner. A long stone bench with evenly spaced holes. Beneath it, a shallow channel of water flows slowly, carrying waste away. It doesn't smell good, but it's not unbearable. Wooden doors offer modest privacy. The floor is swept. You step inside and sit carefully. A scrap of linen hangs nearby, tied to a small stick. Used, you assume, then washed and reused. Not pleasant, but familiar now. You return to the main complex and sit with the herbalist. He shows you a jar of soapwort, a plant sometimes boiled into a gentle cleanser. He applies it to a cloth and wipes his hands. It lathers faintly. Rare. Valuable. You ask about baths. He nods. Once a week, he says, on Saturday, sometimes more in summer. A small stone room holds a tub. One monk uses it at a time. Water is heated in copper kettles and poured by hand. The elder monks go first. Novices last. The same water reused. You're allowed to rinse your face in the courtyard basin before evening prayers. The water is cool. You wipe your eyes and feel the salt of your own skin wash away. At sunset, you sit in silence as the brothers chant. Their robes smell faintly of soapwort and wool. Their hands are clean. Their faces are bare. Their nails are trimmed, not for show, not for beauty, but for discipline, for clarity, for something beyond the body. You spend the night on a mat of woven reeds. Your blanket smells of lavender and smoke. You sleep more soundly than you have in weeks. This is monastic hygiene. Quiet, rhythmic, intentional. A place where cleanliness is a daily act of devotion. You leave the monastery as the morning bells echo behind you. The road bends west toward the hills and open plains. Your boots press into soft earth still damp from last night's rain. The village is 2 miles behind you. The next one is 10 ahead. You ride this stretch on a borrowed mule, the animal plodding along without urgency. Travel in the medieval world is not clean. Not in distance, not in experience. You jostle with every step, and every gust of wind carries dust, dung, or worse. Your cloak is already streaked with mud. Your hands are gritty from holding the reins. Your mouth is dry. Your skin itches under the weight of sweat and unwashed linen. You pass a group of travelers on foot, 3 men and a woman, their faces smeared with road dust. One carries a sack of onions, another a wooden staff. They greet you with a tired nod. Their clothes hang stiffly from their shoulders. They smell faintly of animal hide, campfire, and old cheese. You ride past them, then stop by a stream. You dismount, kneel, and scoop water into your hands. It's cool, but carries the taste of moss and silt. You rinse your face. It does little to clean, but the sensation feels good. You take a sip, then another. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. Your face dries sticky. You press onward, passing a caravan with a wooden cart. The driver wipes sweat from his brow with a rag stained dark from use. Behind him, a child leans over the cart's edge, picking at the dried mud on his arms. He has not bathed in days. You can tell. There is no such thing as hygiene on the road. Not really. Roads are long, often treacherous, and accommodations are sparse. Inns, when they exist, are smoky, flea-ridden, and shared with strangers. You reach one by dusk. A stone structure with an open yard, a stable on one side, a low-roofed hall on the other. You hand off the mule to a boy who smells like he's never touched soap. He grins, revealing 3 teeth. Inside, a wooden bench lines the far wall. A fire burns in the hearth. The heat thickens the air, amplifying every scent. A man eats stew with his fingers. Another picks at his feet. Someone is snoring, already lying flat on a straw mat, boots still on. You pay a coin and receive a shared bedroll in return. You ask for water to wash. The innkeeper gestures to a bucket near the door. It's brownish gray. A rag floats on top. You dip your hand and wipe your face. You smell like everyone else now. Historians note that travelers carried cloths soaked in vinegar or spirits to clean their hands. Others packed sprigs of herbs to rub on the skin. But most just bore the grime until the journey ended. In the corner, a woman combs her hair. The comb teeth are missing in places. Lice scatter into the firelight. She curses and flicks one away. You sit near the hearth. You remove your boots. Your feet are damp, the skin raw from friction. You rub them with a dry cloth. It helps slightly. Dinner is served. A bowl of barley and turnip. You eat with a wooden spoon. No one washes before or after. Fingers are licked. Bowls wiped with crusts of bread. Then sleep. The mat smells of straw sweat and ash. You close your eyes and dream of clear water. Morning comes. You wake with a crick in your neck and a sore hip. You gather your things and step outside. The stable boy returns your mule. He hands you the reins with a grin and a cough. You ride toward the next village. Along the way you pass a dead dog. It lies beside the road, stiff and bloated. You steer around it, breathing through your sleeve. At midday, you stop at a shrine for rest. A bucket nearby holds rainwater. A man ahead of you dips a cloth into it and wipes his face. You wait, then do the same. The cloth comes away darker than it went in. You pass a merchant cart. Inside, a woman pours oil onto a rag and dabs her neck. The oil is scented lavender or marjoram. It covers the sweat, but mixes with it too. A traveling priest rides beside her, a cross dangling from his neck. His robe is stained. He hasn't washed in a week, and he's headed to a wedding. By dusk, you arrive in the next village. A woman directs you to a barn with space for travelers. You sleep in hay again beside 2 other men. One smells of horses, the other of onions and mead. No bath, no soap, no change of clothes, just another day of moving forward through sweat, dust, and time. This is hygiene on the road, uneven, improvised, and always incomplete. The next morning, the sun is already high when you reach the outskirts of a larger village. The road flattens and widens, passing between rows of thatched cottages, each leaning slightly toward its neighbor as if whispering complaints. You pass a well, where 2 women stand, speaking in hushed voices. One of them is holding a bundle of cloth dark red, folded neatly, still damp. She's been washing menstrual cloths. You slow your steps. She turns slightly away, not in shame, but in habit. This is private, yet common. It is not spoken of publicly, but it happens in every household, behind every shutter. In medieval times, there were no disposable products for menstruation. No cotton pads, no tampons. Women managed with cloth reusable folded layers of linen that could be washed and dried in private. Others used moss softened with oil or fat. Some used nothing at all, letting blood soak into layers of underclothing or flowing freely beneath long skirts. You glance toward a garden wall where more cloths hang to dry. Red, brown, beige. No one speaks of what they are, but everyone knows. You walk through the village and pass a midwife's home. She is outside pounding herbs, marjoram mugwort, and something bitter you can't name. She waves you in. Inside, a woman lies on a straw-stuffed mattress. Her face is pale, her belly swollen. She is in labor. The midwife wipes her hands on a linen cloth and kneels. She rubs oil on the woman's thighs. No gloves, no sterilization, just warm water and instinct. You step back. The smell is sharp, blood sweat, and something more primal. The midwife works steadily, murmuring prayers and instructions. A younger girl stands nearby holding clean cloths washed in vinegar dried in sunlight. There's no anesthesia, no antiseptic, just boiled rags and hope. Historians still argue how much midwives understood about hygiene. Some practiced with surprising care, washing hands, boiling water, isolating the birthing bed. Others did not. Some towns respected their skill. Others blamed them for deaths, infertility, or sickness. The baby arrives with a loud cry. The mother slumps in relief. The midwife cuts the cord with a sharpened flake of glass. She wipes the newborn with a rag and wraps it in swaddling. Then she returns to cleaning. Cloths are rinsed in a basin of cold water wrung out and hung outside. The room is aired. The smell lingers. You step back into the daylight. Further down the road, a woman squats beside a bush, her skirts gathered around her. She's alone. She wipes with a bunch of straw and walks away without a word. For women, privacy is a luxury. During menstruation, they endure discomfort silently. During childbirth, they endure pain in community. Afterward, they are ritually cleansed if the village has such a tradition. Some towns require a new mother to wait 40 days before entering the church again. She is considered unclean until then. You pass the bathhouse. It's Women's Day. Steam curls from the roof. You hear laughter splashing the scrape of cloth against skin. Inside, women bathe each other gently. They wash their hair with vinegar and comb it for lice. They scrape dead skin with seashells or horn blades. They share gossip recipes warnings. One woman lifts her arm and reveals a scar, an old abscess now healed. Another shows a birthmark she believes protects her from fever. A third scrubs her ankles with a handful of salt. The bathhouse is not just for washing. It's for sharing, for recovering, for surviving. You leave quietly. Outside, two girls carry a bucket of water between them. It sloshes with each step. They're headed home to do laundry under clothes, first outer garments later. The bucket is heavy. Their hands are red from scrubbing. You pass a woman in her 50s sitting on a stool combing her hair. Her eyes meet yours. She nods. Then she resumes her task, methodically pulling the comb through every strand, watching for nits. Her expression does not change. You walk into a home where a grandmother sits with her granddaughter. The younger girl cries. Her belly hurts. The older woman places a warm stone on her stomach. She murmurs something about growing pains. about how the moon pulls the blood like it pulls the tides. You leave a handful of mint on the table. The grandmother thanks you without smiling. You spend the evening sitting near the village oven where the women gather to bake. The heat is comforting. The conversation is not loud but steady. They talk about pain, about the itch that never goes away, about cloths that won't come clean, about sisters and mothers who died giving birth, about boys who don't understand anything, about how sometimes they don't change clothes because it makes the pain worse. One woman says she bleeds for 9 days. Another says she doesn't bleed at all anymore. Another says the pain stopped when she turned 40, but her back never healed. You listen. These are the stories no one writes in books. This is hygiene for women in the Middle Ages, constant quiet and never spoken aloud. Evening settles over the rooftops, casting long shadows into narrow alleys. You walk through the town gates into the heart of a medieval city. Stone towers rising through the dusk, carts creaking over cobblestone, the air thick with overlapping smells. It is louder here than in the village, and dirtier. The first thing that hits you is the stench. You wrinkle your nose instinctively. Then you stop. You remember that this is what a city smells like. Rotting vegetables, spoiled milk, fish gone soft from the heat, manure from horses, urine from people, layers of soot from cook fires and smithies, everything baked into the stone by centuries of weather and waste. You watch a woman toss the contents of a chamber pot from an upper window. It splashes in the street with a wet thud. She shouts something as a warning. Too late. A man curses and steps away, shaking his cloak. There are no sewers here, no pipes, no gutters except shallow ones cut into the center of the street. They channel waste through the city like slow rivers of filth. Rats run along the edges. Dogs lap at the puddles. Children step over the trickle as they play. You make your way to the market square. Vendors shout above the din. Their stalls are piled with bread-salted fish wheels of cheese. Flies hover above every cart. A butcher wipes his cleaver on his apron, then his nose. He takes a coin, then passes a slab of meat to a woman with a basket. No one notices his hands. Beneath your feet, the cobbles are slick. Mud mostly, but not entirely. Bits of straw stick to your boots. You step around a pile of rotting cabbage leaves, then over a smear of something less identifiable. You pass a tanner's workshop. The smell turns your stomach. Animal hides soak in a wooden vat of lime and urine. A worker stirs the mix with a paddle sweat pouring from his forehead. His sleeves are rolled high, his skin yellowed by the mixture. The air grows warmer near the bakehouse. Yeast and heat fill the air, a rare relief from the general stench. A line forms outside the window. People shuffle forward, cloaks pressed tightly around them. Most do not speak. Nearby, a laundress kneels by a wooden tub, wringing out a tunic. The water is black. She pours it into the gutter and refills the basin. She shakes out the cloth and slaps it against a rock. Foam rises soap root, maybe, or lye. Her hands are red and raw. Historians debate whether medieval cities were truly as filthy as described in some texts. Some argue exaggeration. Others point to the overwhelming archaeological evidence, cesspits beneath homes, thick layers of refuse. The city, they say, was never entirely clean. It merely learned to live with its own waste. You cross a bridge. Beneath it flows a sluggish stream, dark and opaque. The river carries refuse out of the city, or tries to. During summer it stalls. During winter it freezes. Either way, the stench remains. You pass by the bathhouse. It is closed today. A sign on the door says, "Fever." No one wants to go inside. People fear that heat and humidity will awaken disease. The steam, they say, stirs the plague. A woman coughs behind you. She covers her mouth with her hand, then touches the basket on her hip, then the bread. You step aside. A young boy walks barefoot through the alley. His feet are black with grime. He stops beside a puddle, splashes once, then continues. No one tells him to stop. No one offers him shoes. You enter a tavern. Inside, the air is dense with sweat, ale smoke, and wet wool. The floor is sticky. The bench is warm from the person before you. A barmaid slaps down a cup of cider. She doesn't wipe it first. You drink carefully. Someone sneezes beside you. Another man wipes his face on his sleeve. A rat scurries across the rafters. The room continues without pause. You step out into the street again. Torches flicker against stone. Shadows stretch between buildings, long and sharp. You move slowly through a narrow passage. The walls are damp. Above, another pot empties. You duck just in time. Further down, a group of men gather near a stable. They talk drink spit. One ties a rag around his foot. The other pulls his hood lower. They speak of the plague, always of the plague. In the city, disease travels faster. People sleep close, eat close, cough close. No clean water, no soap, no distance. When illness comes, it burns through neighborhoods like fire, and when it leaves, it marks the walls with silence. You find a small courtyard and sit on the edge of a fountain. The water dribbles slowly from a lion's mouth. It is green with algae. You rinse your hands anyway. Around you, doors slam shut. A dog barks. A baby cries. A man mutters a prayer. You lean back and close your eyes. This is urban hygiene. Layered loud, leaking into every crack. Nothing is sterile. Everything is shared. And you are part of it. The wind shifts as you approach the hill. The road curves slightly, revealing stone walls draped in banners. Red, gold, and green ripple in the breeze. A royal palace stands beyond, perched above the city, detached from the streets below. You pass through the outer gate. The guard nods once, and you step onto cobbled paths swept cleaner than anything you've walked on for days. Here, things appear polished. Walls are scrubbed with lime wash. Tapestries hang fresh from the weaver's hands. Torches burn evenly. Servants move quietly, heads, lowered arms, full of linens, scrolls, or buckets. You inhale deeply. It still smells like people, but it's overlaid with rose oil and beeswax polish. Inside, the air is dry and warm. A servant guides you through the great hall where nobles cluster near the hearth. Their shoes shine. Their collars are stiff. Their fingers are jeweled and ringed. But you've been among real filth, and now you notice the faint crust at the edge of the cuffs, the faint yellow at a neckline, the dark shadow where sweat has soaked into wool. You pause as a noblewoman passes. Her gown sways with every step. She holds a pomander, a silver ball of scented resin tied to her wrist. She nods without smiling. Her face is powdered pale, her lips reddened with crushed berries. The scent is thick. Underneath it, her hair is stiff, likely unwashed, pinned under a veil. Upstairs, a chambermaid stands beside a large copper basin filled with steaming water. A lady's bath is being drawn. Not a daily ritual, perhaps not even weekly, but for today the lady will soak. Servants haul kettles from the hearth, pouring them carefully. Dried flowers float on the surface. You watch as the lady undresses. Her body is pale soft, untouched by labor. A cloth covers her hair. She steps into the tub and exhales slowly. Two maids stand ready with soft cloths and dried soap. One begins to scrub her arms. The other pours rose water down her back. The scent overpowers the room. She doesn't bathe herself. Historians note that many nobles believed in cleanliness, but only the appearance of it. They feared water opening the pores, just as the peasants did. They trusted in perfumes, fresh linen, and quiet servants more than in soap or scrubbing. You're shown the royal bedchamber. The sheets are changed often. The mattress is stuffed with feathers. A pan of coals warms the foot. But you notice a faint trail of lice on the edge of a pillow. Someone will brush them away. Quietly, without mention. The royal physician enters. He carries a bundle of herbs and a jar of ointment. He applies a mustard plaster to a young squire's chest. The boy winces. The physician nods in satisfaction and leaves. You're taken to the laundry yard. Here servants beat linen with wooden paddles, scrubbing them in a mixture of ash lye and water. The fabric turns stiff clean by the standards of the day. You see dozens of underclothes drying in the breeze. This is how royalty stays clean, by changing into freshly washed linen several times a week. The body may not be scrubbed, but the garment next to it is. One servant tells you of the Queen's fondness for saffron-scented sheets. Another whispers that the king uses clove oil to freshen his breath because his teeth are black. You believe both. In the kitchen, a cook dips his fingers into a stew, tastes, and nods. He wipes his hand on a cloth at his waist. No one notices. A scullery maid scrubs a pot with sand. Her fingernails are black. The silver platters gleam above her. You walk down the servant corridor. It smells more familiar sweat, damp wool, boiled meat. A boy carries chamber pots to be emptied. One spills slightly. He sighs and keeps walking. Later you attend a feast. You're seated at the lower table. Nobles dine above you. Each holds a knife and slices meat with practiced ease. But they eat with their fingers, wiping grease on bread or tablecloths. No forks here. A basin passes between courses. Guests rinse fingers in scented water. No soap, just ritual. Musicians play. A lady sneezes. She dabs her nose with a perfumed cloth, then tucks it back into her sleeve. As night falls, candles are snuffed one by one. You're shown to a guest room. The bed is softer than straw, but the sheets hold the faint smell of old sweat and lavender. A servant leaves a bowl of water beside the bed. You dip your hands. You dry them on your cloak. In the quiet, you listen. Mice scurry above the rafters. A woman coughs behind the wall. Somewhere water drips. This is royal hygiene. Draped in silk, scented with rose and hiding everything underneath. At first light, you leave the palace through a narrow gate used by servants and stable hands. The road curves sharply, descending into open countryside. Low stone walls mark the boundaries of farms, and beyond them fields stretch out under a pale sky. Crows circle above. The scent of wet earth rises as you walk. Ahead you spot a figure bent low in the soil. A peasant woman's sleeves rolled hands deep in a patch of onions. Her feet are bare, the soles caked with mud. You watch as she pulls a bulb from the ground, shakes off the dirt, then wipes her hands on her tunic. No gloves, no soap, no basin. You walk toward a thatched cottage at the field's edge. A man emerges from the doorway with a wooden yoke over his shoulders, 2 sloshing buckets hanging on either side. He nods at you, then steps into the yard and pours water into a trough. Pigs gather snorting. The mud beneath them is thick and black. He splashes some on his boots. He does not notice. This is the peasant's world, closer to the land, and therefore to the dirt. Everything is touched by soil, sweat, and livestock. Inside the cottage, the air is warm and close. A low fire burns. A child sits in the corner chewing on a crust of bread, his face streaked with something unidentifiable. His nose runs. No one wipes it. You sit on a stool near the hearth. The floor is packed earth, scattered with straw. A chicken wanders through the doorway. No one stops it. You ask about washing. The woman shrugs. We clean when we must. She gestures to a bucket near the door. It's half full, cloudy. Rainwater. She uses it to rinse a cloth, then wipes her hands. It does little. Bathing happens only when needed before feast days, weddings, funerals. And even then it may only involve a splash from a pot or a quick dunk in a stream. The idea of bathing for comfort doesn't exist here. Cleanliness is not a luxury. It is a brief necessity. Historians note that rural peasants had far less access to soap than townspeople. When they used it, it was homemade lye from wood ash mixed with animal fat, harsh on the skin, reserved for laundry. Not the body. You follow the man into the fields. He kneels fingers deep in the soil planting cabbage seeds. He does not stop to wipe the dirt from under his nails. At midday he wipes sweat from his brow, then eats a hunk of cheese with those same hands. He offers you some. You nod politely. Later, you sit by a stream where a woman washes linens. She rubs them with sand and cold water, then wrings them out and spreads them on bushes to dry. Her hands are red. Her back aches. But she keeps scrubbing. Nearby, a boy pulls off his boots and wades in the water. He slips splashes, then laughs. His mother scolds him, but doesn't stop him. You return to the cottage. A meal is cooking: stewed turnips, something salted. The pot hangs over the fire. A wooden spoon rests beside it. The man tastes, nods, then hands the spoon to his wife. She tastes, then returns it. There is no thought of germs, no fear of contamination. Only routine. A dog licks the floor clean. A cat jumps onto the table. A hen pecks near your boot. You sit still. You scratch your leg. Your trousers are stiff from dried sweat. Your boots leave a mark on the floor. No one cares. Outside, the sun sets behind the hills. You help carry a bundle of kindling inside. The woman thanks you and hands you a cloth. You wipe your hands. It doesn't help. That night you sleep in the loft beside sacks of grain. The straw mat beneath you creaks. Something scurries past. You close your eyes anyway. In the dark, you hear someone coughing. Then, silence. The smell of sweat, earth-wood smoke, and animals fills the air. This is rural hygiene. No bathhouse, no chamber pot, no perfumed linen, only dirt and the constant effort to live around it. You wake before dawn. The air in the loft is still, and the smell of grain straw and old wool clings to your clothes. A rooster crows faintly outside. You sit up, stretch, and wince as your shoulder cracks. There is no basin, no mirror, no towel. You rub your face with the corner of your cloak stand and descend the ladder quietly. The cottage below is dark. Embers glow in the hearth. A woman stirs beside it, coaxing the fire back to life. She nods when she sees you, then returns to her work. A kettle rests nearby, half full of water fetched yesterday. She dips a ladle, drinks, then sets the rest aside for porridge. You step outside into the cold. The sky is pale blue, streaked with gray. A path leads past the garden and down toward the chapel. You walk slowly, hands in your sleeves. Your boots crunch over frozen dirt. The village is beginning to stir. At the chapel, the priest stands on the steps sweeping. He wears a simple robe, his hair unkempt, his skin dry from wind and ash. He greets you with a brief nod, then beckons you inside. Within the chapel is quiet. The air is cooler, still touched by incense burned the night before. A wooden font stands near the door. You dip 2 fingers, touch your forehead. The water is cold. It is not for cleansing the skin, but for the soul. You sit on a bench near the back. The priest lights a candle, then moves to the altar. His sermon, when it begins, is about humility, about resisting pride. He warns against vanity, how the desire to be clean can be a trap of the flesh. He does not speak of soap. In the Middle Ages, religious beliefs shaped hygiene more than science. Many sermons associated cleanliness with arrogance. Dirt was humility. Physical discomfort was holy. Saints lived in rags. Hermits never bathed. Monks denied the body to serve the spirit. You watch as a woman enters. Her hands chapped, her cheeks red. She kneels. Her hair is tied back in a kerchief darkened by sweat. She smells faintly of sour milk. No one notices. After the service, you join the priest outside. He offers you a cloth to dry your hands. It smells faintly of lavender. He says it was washed yesterday. He uses it again moments later to wipe his own nose. You walk with him through the village. He points to the homes of those who are ill. I pray with them, he says. Sometimes I bring herbs, but mostly I listen. He does not mention cleanliness, only faith. Later you sit beneath a tree near the chapel. A monk joins you, pulling a small book from beneath his cloak. He reads quietly, lips moving, then stops. He looks up and tells you of a passage that warns against bathing too often. That water tempts the body. That God sees within, not on the surface. You nod. The wind picks up. Dust swirls at your feet. In some towns, the church bans public bathing during Lent. In others, it blesses the bathhouse, so the poor may wash before holy days. The rules shift. The beliefs remain. You see a woman washing her feet in the stream later that day. She keeps her head down, her skirt lifted slightly. She does not look at you. You do not look at her. A young boy plays near the chapel wall. His hands are brown with dirt. He draws a cross in the dust, then sneezes. He wipes his nose on his sleeve and keeps drawing. You think of the soap bars kept locked in chests saved for weddings and funerals, of the perfumed oils used by the rich and the rags soaked in vinegar used by the poor. You think of the sermons, the silence and the scratch of lice under a bishop's collar. As night falls, the chapel bell rings again. You return inside. A candle flickers near the altar. The priest kneels, hands folded. You kneel beside him. The stone is cold. You do not smell clean. Neither does he. This is religious hygiene. Restrained, symbolic quiet. A soul scrubbed clean while the skin remains untouched. The day grows late and cool as you make your way back through the village. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across the uneven cobblestones and dusty paths. You pause to catch your breath near a fence, leaning against the rough wood, the faint scent of wood smoke and damp earth filling your lungs. Around you the village settles into the slow rhythm of evening. Smoke curls from chimneys mixing with the smell of cooking fires and the lingering scent of animals. Children chase each other in the fading light, their laughter sharp in the stillness. Women gather water from the well, their hands rough and calloused fingers stained from chores. Men return from the fields, boots heavy with mud, faces streaked with sweat and dirt. You think back over the day and the many days before it, the dirt under your nails, the oily hair slicked back with grease, the lice that scuttle just beneath the surface, the chamber pots emptied into the streets, the lack of soap, the steaming bathhouses that you visited only rarely, and the dusty, dry linens that offered the only semblance of cleanliness. You remember the rituals, washing hands before prayer in monasteries, the scented oils of the nobles, the vinegar rinses of the market women, and the herbs tied to doors to keep illness away. You recall the fear of water, the superstition surrounding baths, and the stubborn belief that dirt was protective. As you settle onto your straw bed once more, the musty scent of the mattress surrounds you. You feel the prickling of fleas, the itchy skin that never fully heals, and the faint scratch of lice in your hair. Outside, the wind rustles through the trees, carrying the soft sounds of night. You breathe deeply, letting the smells and sensations fade into the background. Your body is tired, worn, and coated with layers of history of a time when hygiene was a battle against nature, ignorance, and circumstance. Slowly your eyelids grow heavy. You feel the rhythm of the village quieting down, the last whispers of the day slipping away. In this long, unwashed sleep you rest beneath the same stars that have watched over countless generations before you, rough, raw, and alive in the Middle Ages. Sleep comes gently now. Now as the world quiets around you, feel the slow settling of breath and the gentle weight of night. The echoes of mud, smoke, and sweat fade softly into the distance, replaced by the stillness of darkness. The straw beneath you crinkles faintly, holding the warmth of your body as it cools in the quiet air. Imagine the faint rustle of leaves outside your window, the soft sigh of wind through the trees, the distant call of a night bird. Let your mind drift with the steady pulse of history, the endless rhythm of days and nights long past, where life moved slowly and each moment was a fragile thread in the vast fabric of time. There is comfort here, in the knowing that dirt and grime were once part of the everyday, and yet people endured, survived, and found meaning amid it all. Your body relaxes, shedding the weight of grime and fatigue wrapped in the slow calm of evening. As you sink deeper into rest, feel the gentle embrace of night pulling you toward sleep. The stories of old wash away like a slow river, leaving behind only the soft murmur of peace. Let the shadows fall lightly, and the world become quiet and still. Tonight, you rest with the knowledge that even in the roughest times, the quiet rhythms of life continue. The slow, steady beat of breath, the warm pulse of heart, the peaceful descent into sleep. Sweet dreams now. Let the past slip away gently as you drift into calm, carried by the soft hum of the night.